In today's video, we're going to be discussing counting calories versus counting macros. Let's go. Hi, I'm Aleksa, sports dietitian nutrition coach. Welcome again to one of my videos. Thank you again, as always, for clicking and watching. Now, before we get into today's topic, of course, remember, do subscribe and ring that bell so you can stay up to date with every video that I release. I often get asked, should I be tracking calories or should I be tracking macros? Well, the answer depends on many factors, and having a sports dietitian personally program you a nutrition plan that does this all for you is obviously the ideal situation. But you're probably getting started and you just want to know, which one should you be focusing on more to get the ball rolling, so to speak? Well, in today's video, I'm going to teach you some things you need to consider and also give you some of the ins and outs so you can make a more informed decision yourself in terms of what you will do going forward. So without further ado, let's explain. Let's first start with calories. Okay, so the way I want you to think about calories is it's the overarching framework. It's the overarching budget. It's like the big player. It's kind of calories are king. At the end of the day, you have to be in the right caloric balance to be able to achieve the desired result. You know, if you're trying to lose weight, you have to be in a calorie deficit. If you're trying to gain muscle, you have to be at least in a maintenance, but most likely in some kind of surplus to be able to do that. And then beyond physique, obviously calorie adequacy is important for athletes who just want to make sure that they're performing the best possible way. So counting calories, who's this usually ideal for? Well, honestly, everyone can count calories, give or take, depending on whatever their goal is. But generally speaking, just counting calories, it really is suited for those who maybe don't have a performance goal necessarily in mind. So they just need something just general and overarching, or those who are just getting started. The reason for this is it's a lot easier to just track your calories rather than worrying about all the macronutrients out there and the balance of those there as well. But in saying all this, of course, then as you can see, there is a kind of disadvantage to this, and that's that it's not going to optimize nutritional balance, whether that's for health or performance or even for physique technically, which I'll explain in a second when we talk about macros. So yeah, just counting calories, it is the overarching framework, and I do have clients who I get started with just counting calories, but there are definitely some limitations, namely, as I mentioned, nutritional balance, because you're just looking at calories, but that doesn't really consider the quality of the food you're eating. Now let's talk about macros. So macros and tracking macros can actually help optimize your nutrition balance, because you then start to focus more on the food quality and the balance of that as well. You're focusing on, are you having adequate protein? Are you eating the right amount of carbs? Is your fat intake where it needs to be? All in all, you can say that it fine-tunes your approach, especially as an athletic individual, perhaps who has a performance goal. Counting macros on top of calories as well can help really fine-tune your strategy so you can get exactly what you're needing to get out of your food supply, i.e. it maximizes sports application from your nutrition plan. In the same way that I said that calories are like your budget or your overarching framework, macros is how you spend it. Okay, so a great analogy that I like to use is calories are your budget, macros is how you spend it. So that's like the basics you need to know around calories versus macros. Okay, some of the pros, some of the cons. I guess a con for macros, counting and dialing that down, is that it is a bit more tricky and there's a lot more work to do. But you could argue that that's not really a con, because once you get the ball rolling, once you get used to it, and especially if you want to become the best athlete possible, you got to put in the hard work too. So with that all said, I want to say that where possible, being aware of your calories while tracking at least some of your macros is technically the ideal situation. But keep in mind that that's not suitable for everyone. That's why a sports dietitian like myself will tailor these things for you, because not everyone should be starting on macros and vice versa. Not everyone should be counting all macros. Some should be counting just some. There's a lot of nuance, a lot of customization needs to be in play because of different factors out there that need to be considered. And now to end today's video, I want to explain calories, but more specifically macros, in the form of dials, because I think that might make the concept a bit more easier to grasp and understand why counting macros can help tailor things down a bit more, especially as an athletic individual with a specific goal in mind. So let's think of calories as the machine. Let's just say it's like the overarching machine, the engine, whatever. It's kind of the overarching framework as we have been saying. And then let's say the macros are like dials, okay? Like dials and settings and all that sort of stuff on this machine. I want you to think of protein as maybe like the mode dial or button, like let's say on a air conditioner system, you got to set the right mode, the one that you're just going to stay with consistently that you're desiring. Let's just say that, because protein you really want to kind of keep relatively stable and consistent. So you set it, okay, you set that dial for protein where it needs to be, and you leave it, okay? You leave it to stay consistent until a new goal comes in mind where you have to adjust it. Okay, so let's think of protein in that way. Then we got carbs and we got fats. Okay, so let's think of carbs as the dial that we really have to dial up intensity depending on the circumstances. So perhaps you could call it like the volume or whatever you want to call it, like the volume dial. But basically you go up or down depending on your sport, depending on your position, depending on the intensity of exercise, how much activity you do, your lifestyle, and of course, I will always say, as well as your preference. And then we've got the fat dial. The fat dial really would need a minimum requirement for fat. That's something that people don't realize, is there is a minimum requirement for fat, but that's why you want to set that dial. Preference-wise, yes, beyond that minimum, but you got to set it to the minimum, and then beyond that, it's all based really on preference and that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, for a quick recap, protein dial, you set it to the required amount and leave it to be consistent. The carbs, you dial it up and down depending on the necessary need for more carbohydrates or less carbohydrates, depending on your plan and lifestyle and sport and all that sort of stuff. And then we've got fat, which is you'd set it to your minimum at least, and then beyond that, just how much you want. I guess in some way you could think of the fat dial as like the channel. You got to set it to some channel at least, the minimum, okay, to be able to hear the thing. But then beyond that, you choose the preference of what channel you listen to. But don't let all these dials confuse you. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that calories is like the machine, and then the protein, carbs, and fats are like dials that you can adjust to your individual circumstances so you can get the experience, so to speak, okay? The experience from the machine that you desire. It's going to help you get you closer to your goals, and that's tailored to you as the individual, which is very, very key. So I hope this different way of looking at macros has helped you, and I hope you now understand the balance between calories and macros and which one may be more suited to you to start counting. At the end of the day, you can't really go wrong as long as you're suited to the tracking lifestyle, you're suited to the flexible dieting lifestyle, and that you stay consistent and get assistance where needed. But yeah, all in all, if you can get to the point where you're tracking some of your macros at least, then you're doing well. So there you go. I hope you now feel more comfortable with calories and macros in helping you make a more informed decision on terms of which one do you want to start focusing on more if you have started this lifestyle of tracking your macros or your calories. Now, if you are yourself already tracking, what I want to know is comment below, okay? Comment below and let me know, what are you tracking? Are you tracking calories? Are you tracking macros? Are you tracking all of the above? If you aren't obviously tracking yet and you can't answer this question, that's okay. Comment below and let me know. Do you have any questions, first of all, regarding all this? But what is something that made you click this video? Why do you desire to start tracking your food supply? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I want to mention that if you want me to personally work with you to help you create a customized plan that's focused on either your calories or macros and dial it down for your sports so you can get the right results with less restriction, let me know. An application in the description below where you can apply for my 90-day coaching program. Otherwise, if you want to send me an email regarding that or to ask me some questions, email us here, Aleksa@theclimbingdietitian.com.au. As always, hit the like button if this video has helpful. Of course, also subscribe, okay? Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. Stay classy. See you next time. Have a good one. Bye.